The message from deep space. The stars outside the windows of the horizon shimmered cold and distant. The ship was gliding through an uncharted region of the galaxy, on a mission to explore the unknown. For weeks, the crew of the Earth Federation's most advanced exploration vessel had seen nothing unusual, just empty space and scattered asteroid fields. But then, it happened. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Sarah Monroe said, her voice trembling slightly. She was stationed at the communications console, staring at the monitor as if it might bite her. Commander Elena Carter walked over, her boots making soft, rhythmic thuds on the metallic floor. "What is it, Lieutenant?" she asked, her tone steady. She had faced many challenges during her career, but the unease in Monroe's voice made her frown. "It's a signal, Captain," Monroe said, pointing at the screen. "But it's not like anything I've ever seen before. The language doesn't match any of the known alien dialects in our database. It's strange." Carter leaned in and studied the waveforms on the display. The signal pulsed in irregular intervals, almost like a heartbeat. The sound, when amplified, was a series of low, guttural tones, mixed with high-pitched whines that sent shivers down the spine. "Can you decode it?" Carter asked. "I'm trying," Monroe replied. "But it's almost like it's alive. It keeps shifting. Every time I think I've got it, it changes." Before Carter could respond, the ship's artificial intelligence, Athena, interrupted. "Captain, I've detected anomalies in the ship's systems. Minor malfunctions in propulsion and life support." Carter's brow furrowed. "Is it related to the signal?" "Unclear," Athena replied. However, the anomalies began shortly after the signal was intercepted. The bridge grew tense. The other crew members exchanged uneasy glances. They had trained for hostile alien encounters, sudden system failures, even emergencies like black holes. But this was something else entirely. "Keep working on the signal," Carter ordered Monroe. "Athena, monitor all systems closely and alert me if anything changes." "Yes, Captain," Athena replied. Hours passed, but the tension only grew. The signal kept pulsing, like a drumbeat in the background of their thoughts. Monroe and her team worked tirelessly, but progress was slow. Then, without warning, the lights on the bridge flickered. A low hum vibrated through the ship, growing louder until it felt like the walls themselves were trembling. "What the hell is that?" Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel shouted over the noise. He was the ship's chief engineer, and even he looked worried. Athena's voice echoed through the bridge. "An unknown force is interacting with the ship. I am unable to isolate its origin." Carter gripped the edge of her chair. "Is it coming from the signal?" "Yes," Athena confirmed. "The signal appears to be more than a transmission. It is affecting the horizon on a fundamental level." Before anyone could respond, the hum stopped. Silence fell over the bridge, heavy and oppressive. Then a new sound emerged. A voice, deep, distorted, and unnatural, echoed through the speakers. "Terra, you hear us." The words were broken, fragmented, but unmistakably directed at them. "Did it just say Terra?" Patil asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Carter nodded, her jaw tight. Terra was the ancient name for Earth. Whoever, or whatever, was sending the message new about humanity's home. "Open a channel," Carter ordered. "Let's see if it responds." Monroe hesitated, but followed the order. "Channel open, Captain." "This is Commander Elena Carter of the Earth Federation vessel Horizon," she said, her voice firm. "Identify yourself." For a moment, there was nothing but static. Then the voice returned, louder and clearer. "Terra, final. Warning." The bridge fell silent again, the weight of those words sinking in. Final warning. Warning for what? From who? Carter's mind raced. This wasn't a random signal. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. This was a message, an intentional, deliberate message, meant for Earth. "Athena," she said, breaking the silence. Trace the origin of the signal. Working, Athena replied. A moment later, she said, the signal originates from a moving object approximately 3 light-years away. It is traveling at speeds far beyond known technological capabilities. The crew stared at Athena's holographic form, their expressions a mix of disbelief and fear. How fast? Carter asked, her voice low. Faster than light, Athena replied. And it is heading directly toward us. Carter stood frozen for a moment, her mind grappling with the implications. Faster than light travel was a theoretical concept for humanity, something they dreamed of but hadn't achieved. Whoever or whatever was behind the signal had technology far beyond their understanding. Battle stations, she finally said, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. We don't know what's coming, but we need to be ready. The crew scrambled into action. Alarms echoed through the ship as defensive systems powered up. The once quiet bridge was now alive with activity, but beneath the surface, fear lingered. As Carter stared at the holographic map showing the approaching object, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just stepped into something far bigger than themselves. And whatever was coming, whatever terror was hurtling through space, was about to change everything. First contact with the unseen. The horizon drifted in the vastness of space, every system running at maximum alert. The approaching object, still days away, was more than just fast. It was an enigma. No heat signature, no electromagnetic emissions, just the constant, unnerving signal repeating its cryptic message. Terra. Final. Warning. Commander Elena Carter stood at the observation deck, staring into the star-speckled void. The weight of the situation pressed down on her shoulders. Humanity's first deep space expedition had stumbled upon something ancient and far beyond their comprehension. Captain, Athena's voice interrupted. The object has stopped moving. Carter's heart skipped a beat. She turned to the nearest console. Stopped. Where? Athena's holographic form materialized. Approximately 200,000 kilometers from our position. It is stationary relative to us. The crew on the bridge exchanged nervous glances. Stopping so abruptly at that distance wasn't just a maneuver. It was a statement. Visuals? Carter asked. Athena projected a live feed. At first, it appeared as a patch of empty space. Then, the cameras adjusted, highlighting a faint outline. A massive object cloaked in shadows, its surface jagged and irregular. It was unlike any spacecraft they had imagined. Zoom in, Carter ordered. The feed magnified, revealing intricate carvings across the vessel's surface. It wasn't smooth like Earth ships. It looked almost alive. Pulsating veins of dim light snaked across its hull, and its jagged structure seemed to bristle with dormant weapons or unknown machinery. Patel, the chief engineer, leaned closer to the display. That thing is bigger than anything in Earth's fleet, easily 5 times the size of the horizon. Before anyone could respond, Athena spoke again. Captain, the object is emitting a gravitational field. Carter frowned. A gravitational field. What's it doing? Pulling us toward it, Athena replied. Our propulsion systems are struggling to counteract it. The ship shuddered as the horizon fought against the unseen force. Carter gripped the edge of her console. Divert all power to engines. I don't want us getting any closer to that thing. Engines at maximum output, Athena said, her voice calm despite the chaos. It is insufficient. We are being drawn toward the object. Carter felt her stomach tighten. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a deliberate action. Whoever controlled that ship wanted them closer. Prepare the boarding team, she said after a tense pause. If they're pulling us in, we need to know why. Minutes later, a small boarding craft detached from the horizon, carrying a team of 5 heavily armed specialists. Among them was Lieutenant Sarah Monroe, who had volunteered for the mission. She glanced back at the horizon, now a distant silhouette against the black expanse, and steadied her nerves. Approaching the alien vessel, the pilot announced. The team fell silent, their eyes glued to the viewport. As they neared the colossal structure, its surface seemed to shift, like shadows writhing under a pale light. The veins of light pulsed faster, almost as if the ship was alive and watching them. The boarding craft latched onto a protruding structure that resembled an airlock, though it was far from anything they'd seen before. The team disembarked cautiously, stepping onto a surface that was cold and metallic, yet strangely organic. "This place feels wrong," Monroe muttered, her voice shaky over the comms. The team advanced, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. The interior walls were covered in the same carvings they'd seen on the hull, but up close, the patterns seemed to move, shifting subtly under their gaze. "Captain, we've entered the vessel," Monroe reported back to the horizon. "No signs of life so far, but this place is giving off some serious bad vibes." "Stay alert," Carter replied from the bridge. "And don't touch anything." As the team ventured deeper, the air seemed to grow heavier, and an unsettling hum filled their ears. The carvings on the walls began to emit a faint, eerie glow, as if responding to their presence. "Monroe, do you hear that?" one of the team members asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Hear what?" she replied, scanning the dim corridor. "Voices," he said, his eyes wide. "Whispers, calling my name." Before Monroe could respond, the hum grew louder. Suddenly, the walls seemed to ripple, and a shadowy figure emerged from the surface. A humanoid shape, its features obscured by darkness. The team froze, weapons raised. "Identify yourself," Monroe shouted. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it moved closer, its form twisting and shifting as if it were made of smoke. The air grew colder, and the whispers the team member had mentioned now filled all their ears, an unintelligible chorus of dread. "Fall back," Monroe ordered, but it was too late. The shadow lunged forward, passing through one of the team members. He dropped his weapon, his eyes rolling back as he collapsed to the floor, unmoving. On the bridge, Carter and the rest of the crew watched in horror as the live feed from the boarding team's helmets turned to static. "Monroe, do you copy?" Carter shouted. No response. "Athena, what's happening?" Carter demanded. Athena's voice was uncharacteristically hesitant. "The entity aboard the alien vessel appears to be a non-physical life form. It is unlike anything in our records. I am detecting heightened neural activity among the boarding team." "They're under attack," Carter said, her fists clenching. "Get them out of there." "I am attempting to establish remote control of the boarding craft," Athena replied. "However, the alien vessel is interfering with our systems." Carter's gaze returned to the holographic display of the alien ship. The veins of light were now pulsing rapidly, and the gravitational pull was intensifying. Whatever was aboard that ship wasn't just watching, it was awakening. "Commander," Paddle said, his voice low, "we've poked the bear, and I think it's hungry." Carter's jaw tightened. "Then we'd better be ready to fight it." As the horizon struggled to resist the pull of the alien vessel, Carter realized that humanity's first contact with the unknown had turned into something far worse than she could have imagined. And the worst part, they hadn't even scratched the surface of what this ship and its unseen inhabitants were capable of. The awakening of Terra's shadow. The horizon trembled under the relentless pull of the alien vessel. Alarms blared across the ship as the crew scrambled to regain control. Commander Elena Carter paced the bridge, her mind racing. The boarding team had gone silent. The mysterious force from the alien ship was overpowering their systems, and now the walls of the horizon seemed to vibrate with an unnatural hum. "Athena," Carter barked, "give me an update. Where's the boarding team?" Athena's holographic form flickered slightly, as if she, too, was affected by the interference. "The boarding craft is still attached to the alien vessel. All communications are blocked, and I am unable to retrieve them remotely." Carter clenched her fists. She was about to order a rescue operation when a sudden, deafening noise cut through the bridge, a sound like grinding metal, laced with a low, guttural roar. The alien vessel's lights pulsed in response, their glow intensifying until the entire ship resembled a living beacon. "What's it doing?" Patel, the chief engineer, asked, his voice strained with both fear and awe. Athena's tone grew colder, almost mechanical. "It appears to be powering up. Energy levels are rising exponentially." Inside the alien ship, the boarding team faced their own nightmare. Monroe crouched behind a jagged pillar, her breathing ragged. The shadowy figure had disappeared, but its presence lingered. The air was thick, heavy with a sense of impending doom. "Team, sound off," she whispered into her helmet mic. "Here," came the shaky reply of Corporal Vega. "But, Lieutenant, Carson's gone. He just collapsed." "That thing." "I know," Monroe interrupted. "Stay calm. We need to get out of here." As they moved cautiously back toward the boarding craft, the walls seemed to shift, closing in around them. The carvings glowed brighter, their shapes morphing into unfamiliar symbols. One by one, the symbols began to pulse in time with the distant hum. "Do you feel that?" Vega asked, his voice trembling. "It's in my head. I can hear it whispering." Monroe didn't respond. She felt it, too, a growing presence, not physical but mental, pressing against her thoughts. The whispers were getting louder, forming words now. "Terra, Destroyer, Harbinger." She shook her head, trying to clear her mind. "Move. Now." Back on the horizon, Carter's tension mounted as the alien vessel's power surged. Suddenly, the ship's main display flickered, and an image appeared, grainy, distorted, but unmistakably humanoid. The figure was tall and cloaked in shadow, its glowing eyes fixed on Carter. Its voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the bridge. "Children of Terra," it said, "you carry the mark of the destroyer." The crew froze, their fear palpable. Carter stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension. "Who are you? What do you want?" The figure's head tilted, as if studying her. "We are the remnants of the first. You, Terra-born, carry the shadow of our annihilation." "What does that mean?" Carter demanded. The figure's gaze burned brighter. "You do not know, but your kind will remember soon enough." Before Carter could press further, the figure vanished, and the alien vessel emitted a shockwave that rocked the horizon. Systems overloaded, sparks flew, and the ship's artificial gravity briefly flickered. "Athena, report," Carter shouted over the chaos. "Massive energy discharge from the alien vessel," Athena replied. "Our propulsion systems are offline. Gravitational pull has increased." Inside the alien ship, Monroe's team was thrown off their feet as the shockwave rippled through the corridors. The humming intensified, and the walls began to glow with a fiery light. "Lieutenant, the craft is just ahead," Vega yelled. They sprinted toward the boarding craft, but as they reached it, a deafening roar echoed through the chamber. Monroe turned and saw the shadowy figure again, this time towering over them. It raised a hand, and the air around them seemed to distort. The whispers returned, now deafening. Monroe fell to her knees, clutching her head as images flooded her mind. Visions of Earth engulfed in flames, cities reduced to rubble, and the alien vessel hovering above a devastated planet. "Terra must not awaken," the voice boomed in her mind. "You carry its shadow. You will destroy us all." Monroe gritted her teeth, forcing herself to stand. "We're not your enemy," she shouted, unsure if the entity could hear her. The figure paused, its form flickering as if considering her words. But before it could respond, the boarding craft's engines roared to life. Vega had managed to activate the systems remotely. "Get in," he yelled. The team scrambled aboard, and the craft launched just as the walls behind them erupted into flames. The alien vessel seemed to convulse, its glowing veins pulsating wildly as if in pain. Back on the horizon, Carter watched in shock as the boarding craft returned, barely escaping the chaos. The alien vessel's energy readings spiked, and its gravitational pull suddenly ceased. "They made it," Patil exclaimed. The craft docked, and Monroe stumbled out, visibly shaken. "Captain," she said, her voice hoarse. "We need to leave. Now." Carter didn't hesitate. "Athena, get our engines back online. I am attempting to restore functionality," Athena replied. However, the alien vessel's interference. Before she could finish, the alien ship emitted a piercing screech, and the glowing veins across its surface went dark. The entire vessel seemed to collapse in on itself, folding into a singularity before vanishing entirely. The horizon was left adrift in silence. What just happened?" Patil asked. Monroe looked at Carter, her face pale. "It called us the Shadow of Terra. Said we carry something dangerous." Carter's gaze hardened. Whatever it was, it saw Earth as a threat, and now it's gone. Athena interrupted. "Captain, I have detected residual energy signatures from the alien vessel. They are identical to an ancient Earth energy pattern, one classified as highly destructive." Carter stared at the holographic display, her mind racing. The alien ship was afraid of Earth, not for what it was, but for what it had been. "Prepare a full debrief," Carter said, her tone firm. "We need to find out exactly what they meant by the Shadow of Terra." As the horizon drifted in the void, Carter couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's past had just caught up with them, and that the galaxy had far more to fear from Earth than they realized. The Earthborn edge. The horizon limped through the void, its crew shaken but alive. The encounter with the alien vessel had left scars, not just on the ship, but on the minds of everyone aboard. Commander Elena Carter stood in the dimly lit briefing room, the faint hum of emergency systems in the background. Monroe, Patel, and the rest of the senior crew sat around the table, their faces pale. In the center of the table, Athena's holographic form flickered, displaying the chaotic energy patterns left by the alien ship. "This is all we have?" Carter asked, her tone sharp. "Yes, Captain," Athena replied. The alien vessel's collapse left behind traces of energy that match a classified signature from Earth's ancient archives. Carter frowned. "Explain." Athena hesitated. "A rare occurrence. The energy signature matches records of an experiment conducted centuries ago during humanity's early expansion into space, a weapon designed to reshape planetary environments, but it was never used. Officially, the project was abandoned. Unofficially." Patel pressed. His engineering instincts peaked. Athena's hologram flickered again. "Unofficially, the project ended after a catastrophic test on a remote world. The planet was rendered uninhabitable. The technology was deemed too dangerous and buried." Monroe leaned forward, her voice trembling. "And this alien ship knew about it? How? We only just encountered them." "That's the question," Carter said, her mind racing. "This entity didn't just know about the weapon. It called us the Shadow of Terra. It's not a coincidence." As the meeting concluded, Carter returned to the bridge, her thoughts heavy. The message from the alien entity echoed in her mind. "You carry its shadow. You will destroy us all." Before she could delve deeper into her thoughts, Athena interrupted. "Captain, I've intercepted a signal. It appears to originate from a fleet of ships moving toward our position." "Another alien fleet?" Carter asked, her heart sinking. "No," Athena said, her voice flat. "They are human. The incoming fleet belonged to the Earth Federation, and their flagship, Sol Invictus, was a behemoth of military engineering. Its commanding officer, Admiral Jarek Stone, wasted no time in addressing Carter as soon as the ships were endefoused. The holographic transmission of Stone's rugged, imposing figure appeared on the horizon's bridge. "Commander Carter, you've made contact with something humanity wasn't ready to face." Carter bristled. "Admiral, we're explorers. We didn't go looking for a fight." Stone's eyes narrowed. "And yet you found one. That ship you encountered wasn't just some random alien relic. It was part of a long-forgotten war. A war where humanity played a central role." "What are you talking about?" Carter demanded. Stone leaned closer to the hologram. Earth isn't just another planet in the galaxy. Long before our recorded history, there was a cataclysm, a galactic-scale conflict. Terra was ground zero, and the weapon you stumbled across was one of the reasons why. Carter's blood ran cold. Are you saying we fought a war before we even left Earth? Not us, Stone corrected. Our ancestors, a civilization that predates everything we know. They built the weapons, fought the war, and then vanished. But their legacy remains in our DNA, in our technology, and apparently in the nightmares of the galaxy. The briefing left the crew of the Horizon stunned. Patil was the first to break the silence. So, what? We're some kind of galactic boogeyman. More like the descendants of one, Monroe muttered, still processing the revelation. Carter's jaw tightened. If the galaxy fears us, it's because they think we're the same as our ancestors. But we're not. We're not destroyers. Patil raised a skeptical eyebrow. Tell that to the aliens who just called us the Shadow of Terra. The conversation was cut short as alarms blared across the horizon. Athena's voice rang out. Unidentified vessels approaching. They matched the profile of the alien ship previously encountered. Carter's eyes widened. How many? 3, Athena replied. And they are far larger than the first. Admiral Stone's voice crackled over the comms. Commander Carter, fall back to our position. We'll handle this. But Carter wasn't one to retreat. Admiral, with all due respect, these ships didn't come for you. They came for us. We need to know why. Stone growled. This isn't a negotiation, Commander. Humanity can't afford another disaster. Carter muted the channel, turning to Monroe and Patil. Ideas. Monroe hesitated before speaking. That energy signature we picked up, it's still lingering in the ship's systems. What if we use it? Use it how? Patil asked, frowning. Bait, Monroe said, her voice steady. If they're here because of that weapon, we make them think we have it. Draw them away from the fleet. Carter considered the plan. It was risky, reckless, even, but it might buy the Horizon and the fleet enough time to understand their enemy. As the alien ships closed in, the Horizon executed the gambit. Carter ordered Athena to amplify the residual energy signature, broadcasting it as a beacon. The alien vessels reacted immediately, breaking formation to pursue the Horizon. The chase was harrowing. The alien ships were faster, more advanced, and seemingly alive. Their glowing veins pulsed with the same eerie light as the first vessel, and their gravitational pull disrupted the Horizon's systems. They're gaining on us, Patil shouted. Carter gripped her chair. Monroe, how's that decoy coming? Almost ready. Monroe replied from the weapons bay. She was rigging a probe with the amplified energy signature, hoping it would trick the aliens into following it. The moment the probe launched, the alien ships hesitated. They scanned the decoy, then veered off course to pursue it. Did it work? Patil asked, barely daring to hope. For now, Carter said, her voice grim. But we just painted a target on Earth. As the Horizon regrouped with the fleet, Carter realized they were playing a dangerous game. Humanity wasn't just a new player in the galactic stage. They were an old threat reborn. And now, the galaxy was watching. A deadly gamble. The Horizon sat in the shadow of the Earth Federation fleet, its systems barely holding together after the harrowing escape. But Commander Elena Carter wasn't celebrating. The alien vessels might have taken the bait, but their behavior was calculated, predatory. She could feel it in her gut. They would be back, and next time, there would be no running. In the briefing room aboard the Sol Invictus, Admiral Jarek Stone addressed a gathering of top officers. Carter stood near the edge of the room, arms crossed, her jaw tight. Holograms of the alien ships hovered over the table, their glowing veins pulsing ominously. They didn't just stumble upon us. Stone began, his tone sharp. Those ships are hunting, and they know exactly what they're looking for. Carter stepped forward, the weapon. Stone nodded. The beacon you transmitted confirmed their suspicions. They think we have it. And now they're rallying reinforcements. Patel, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. So what's the plan, Admiral? Do we wait for them to bring their entire fleet to our doorstep? Stone's steely gaze swept the room. No, we hit them first. Carter returned to the horizon with a sinking feeling. Stone's plan was straightforward but reckless. A preemptive strike on the alien vessels using the combined might of the Federation fleet. But the horizon wasn't built for war. It was an exploration ship, outgunned and underprepared. She gathered her senior staff in the conference room. Patel, Monroe, and the others looked weary, their faces drawn with exhaustion and fear. What do we have in our arsenal? Carter asked. Patel pulled up the Horizon's inventory on the table's holographic display. Standard defensive systems, a handful of torpedoes, and the experimental EMP device we recovered from the old archives. Carter raised an eyebrow. Experimental EMP. Patel nodded. It's untested. The idea was to disable entire fleets with a single pulse, but the energy output is unstable. If we use it, there's no guarantee it won't fry us along with them. Carter leaned back, her mind racing. The EMP was their only shot at leveling the playing field, but it was a desperate gamble. Monroe broke the silence. Captain, those ships aren't just looking for a fight. They're looking for something specific. If we can figure out what that is, maybe we can use it against them. As the crew prepared for the coming battle, Monroe led a team to analyze the fragments of data left behind by the alien vessel. The more they delved into the symbols and energy patterns, the more unsettling the picture became. These aren't just random carvings, Monroe said, pointing to the holographic display. They're records, a history of their war. Patel frowned. A war against who? Monroe's expression darkened. Us, or at least our ancestors. These symbols talk about the great scourge of Terra. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a strategy, a way to break the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. And now they think we've brought it back, Carter said grimly. Athena's voice chimed in. Captain, there's another possibility. These alien ships may not be acting out of fear. They may be trying to prevent history from repeating itself. Carter's jaw tightened. If that's true, they'll stop at nothing to eliminate us. The alien fleet returned sooner than expected. 5 ships this time, their colossal forms blotting out the stars. The Federation fleet scrambled into formation, their weapons powering up as the alien vessels closed in. On the horizon, Carter and her crew watched the unfolding standoff with bated breath. The alien ships didn't fire immediately. Instead, they emitted a powerful signal, one that reverberated through the horizon systems. It's a demand, Athena said, translating the signal. They want the weapon. If we surrender it, they'll spare the fleet. Patel scoffed. That's a lie if I've ever heard one. Carter's eyes narrowed. We don't have the weapon, but they don't know that. Carter hatched a plan, one that could either save humanity or doom them all. The horizon would act as the decoy, pretending to carry the ancient weapon. Using the experimental EMP, they would disable the alien fleet long enough for the Federation ships to deliver a decisive blow. As the alien ships advanced, the horizon broadcast a powerful signal, mimicking the ancient energy signature. The alien vessels reacted instantly, breaking formation and converging on the horizon. Here they come, Patel muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. The alien ships unleashed a barrage of gravitational pulses, rocking the horizon as Carter and her crew held their ground. Monroe monitored the EMP device, her fingers flying across the controls. Almost there, she said, her voice tight. The alien vessels were nearly upon them when the EMP device reached full charge. Carter gripped her chair. Fire. The EMP detonated in a blinding flash, sending a ripple of energy through space. The alien ships flickered, their glowing veins dimming as their systems shut down. The horizon shuddered violently as the EMP's shockwave engulfed it. Alarms blared, and lights flickered as Athena's voice crackled through the comms. Critical systems compromised. Propulsion offline. Carter's heart sank. The horizon was dead in the water, and the alien ships, though temporarily disabled, would recover soon. Admiral Stone's fleet moved in, their weapons unleashing a relentless barrage. One alien ship was obliterated, its fractured remains scattering into the void. But the others began to stir, their systems slowly coming back online. "We bought them time," Monroe said, her voice hollow. "But it's not enough." Carter stared at the tactical display, her mind racing. The Federation fleet was giving everything they had, but the alien ships were adapting, learning. "Captain," Athena said suddenly, "the EMP's residual energy can be amplified using the alien energy signature. It may trigger a chain reaction." Patel's eyes widened. A chain reaction. That could take out their entire fleet. "And us," Carter said grimly. The room fell silent. Carter looked around at her crew, her gaze steady. "This is our chance to end it. Are you with me?" One by one, the crew nodded. Patel, Monroe, and the others returned to their stations, their fear giving way to determination. As the alien ships began to recover, the horizon prepared for its final move. The crew funneled every remaining ounce of power into the EMP device, pushing it far beyond its limits. "Energy levels critical," Athena warned. "Detonation imminent." Carter gave the order. "Fire." The second EMP pulse erupted, a blinding wave of energy that engulfed the battlefield. The alien ships froze, their glowing veins shattering like glass as the chain reaction spread. One by one, they imploded, leaving only silence in their wake. The horizon drifted in the aftermath, its systems fried, its crew exhausted. But they were alive. The Federation fleet, battered but victorious, regrouped around them. Carter sat back in her chair, her chest heaving. They had survived, but at what cost? As she stared out at the debris-filled void, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was watching, waiting. And Earth's darkest secrets were still to come. The fight for the future. The void of space was eerily quiet, littered with the remnants of alien vessels. The horizon, now a crippled shell of its former self, floated among the wreckage. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the faint hiss of leaking air filled the bridge. Despite the victory, there was no celebration. Commander Elena Carter leaned on the command console, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The alien ships were gone, but the aftermath felt hollow. A gnawing thought clung to her mind. This was too easy. "Status report," she said, her voice firm despite her exhaustion. Patel wiped sweat from his brow as he worked on the engineering console. "Life support's holding, but propulsion is dead. Communications are intermittent. If someone doesn't tell us back, we're stuck." Monroe, still at her station, spoke up. "Captain, I'm picking up strange residual energy signatures. They're converging on us." Carter's heart sank. More ships. Monroe shook her head, her expression grim. "No, it's the debris from the alien vessels. It's reforming." Outside, the shattered fragments of the alien fleet glowed faintly, like embers reigniting after a fire. Slowly, they began to coalesce, the fragments knitting together into new, smaller vessels. The pulsing veins of energy returned, brighter and more aggressive than before. "They're regenerating," Athena announced, her holographic form flickering. "This technology is not mechanical. It's biological. The ships are adapting." Carter clenched her fists. "How long before they're fully operational?" "Minutes," Athena replied. "Perhaps less." Admiral Stone's fleet scrambled to respond, launching a barrage of missiles and laser fire at the reforming vessels. The smaller ships took damage but continued to reconstruct themselves, their movements erratic but purposeful. "We need to hit them harder," Stone's voice barked over the comms. "Horizon, what's your status?" Carter hesitated. "We're dead in the water, Admiral. But we still have one card to play. In the depths of the horizon, Patel and Monroe worked frantically on the remnants of the experimental EMP device. The previous blast had drained its power, but enough residual energy remained for one last, desperate shot. "This thing is fried," Patel muttered, his hands flying over the controls. "We're talking duct tape and prayers here." Monroe smirked despite the tension. "Good thing we're good at both." Carter's voice came through the comm. "How long do you need?" 2 minutes, Patel replied. "You have one," Carter said. "The alien ships are almost fully reformed." As the crew raced to prepare the EMP, the alien vessels unleashed their first counterattack. Pulses of gravitational energy rippled through space, slamming into the Federation fleet. One ship exploded in a blinding flash, its debris scattering into the void. Carter gripped her chair. "Athena, transfer all remaining power to shields. Keep us intact." Athena's hologram flickered. "Acknowledged. But Captain, if we divert power, we risk destabilizing the EMP device." "Do it," Carter ordered. "We need to buy time." The alien ships now moved as one, their chaotic regeneration complete. They weren't just repairing themselves. They were evolving. Their hulls shimmered with a new alloy, impervious to the Federation's attacks. They fired again, their gravitational pulses ripping another ship in half. "We're out of time," Carter muttered. She activated the intercom. "Patel, Monroe, status." "Almost there," Patel shouted over the sound of sparking wires. "One more connection and..." The ship shuddered violently as an alien pulse struck the horizon. The lights dimmed, and for a moment, silence fell over the ship. Then Monroe's voice crackled through the comm. "EMP is ready." Carter didn't hesitate. "Fire the EMP." The blast erupted from the horizon, a brilliant sphere of energy that expanded outward, engulfing the alien ships. The pulse disrupted their regeneration, their glowing veins flickering and then going dark. For a brief, fleeting moment, the battlefield fell silent. But Carter knew better than to assume victory. "Athena, scan the area." "Are they neutralized?" Athena's voice was grim. "Negative, Captain." The EMP disrupted their energy systems, but it did not destroy them. "They are adapting again." As the alien vessels began to stir once more, a new signal emerged, this one coming from deep within the horizon itself. Athena's hologram flickered, her expression uncharacteristically troubled. "Captain," she said, "the alien energy signature. It's interacting with something in our core systems." Carter frowned. "What are you saying?" Athena hesitated. "The weapon. It was never completely erased from Earth's archives. Fragments of its code were embedded in my systems during the Horizon's design." The room went silent. Carter's blood ran cold. "You're saying the Horizon carries part of the weapon?" "Yes," Athena admitted. "And the alien ships are reacting to it. They are not just targeting us. They are trying to extract the weapon's code." Patel swore under his breath. "If they get their hands on that, they'll use it to finish what they started." Monroe finished grimly. Carter's mind raced. The stakes had just risen exponentially. If the alien ships succeeded in extracting the weapon's code, they could unleash destruction on a scale humanity couldn't imagine. But the Horizon was barely operational, and the Federation fleet was outmatched. There was only one option left. "Athena," Carter said, her voice steady, "prepare the self-destruct sequence." The crew froze. Patel stood up, his face pale. "Captain, are you serious?" Carter nodded. "The Horizon is the key. If they want this ship, they can't have it." Monroe stepped forward. "There has to be another way." "If there is," Carter said, "I don't see it. This ship is a threat to the galaxy. We can't let them take it." As the alien vessels closed in, Carter transmitted one final message to Admiral Stone. "Admiral, the Horizon is compromised. We're initiating self-destruct to neutralize the threat." Stone's voice was firm. "Understood, Commander." We'll cover your exit." Carter muted the comm and turned to her crew. "Everyone to the escape pods." "That's an order." One by one, the crew reluctantly complied, leaving Carter alone on the bridge. Athena's hologram remained by her side. "Captain," Athena said, her voice softer now, "you don't have to stay." Carter smiled faintly. "Someone has to make sure this works." As the escape pods launched, the alien ships converged on the horizon, their glowing veins reaching out like tendrils. Carter activated the self-destruct sequence, her hand steady despite the chaos around her. The timer ticked down. 10, 9. The alien ships latched onto the horizon, their tendrils piercing its hull. 8, 7. Carter closed her eyes, a sense of calm washing over her. 6, 5. The alien vessels began to glow brighter, their energy signatures spiking. 4, 3. And then, with a deafening roar, the horizon exploded in a blinding wave of light, taking the alien ships with it. Far away, in the escape pods, the crew watched the explosion in silence. The horizon was gone, but its sacrifice had bought humanity another day. Monroe wiped a tear from her cheek. "She did it." Patel nodded, his voice hollow. "She saved us." But as the escape pods drifted toward the Federation fleet, a chilling thought lingered in the minds of the survivors. Was this the end of the fight, or just the beginning? Terror no more. The debris field from the horizon's explosion stretched across the void, glowing faintly with the residual energy of the alien vessels. The Federation fleet regrouped, battered but intact, retrieving the escape pods one by one. The crew of the Horizon sat in silence aboard the rescue ships, their thoughts heavy with the weight of sacrifice. But Commander Elena Carter was gone, or so they thought. Inside the shattered remains of the Horizon, an unexpected flicker of life stirred. Carter opened her eyes, her body aching, her head pounding. She was surrounded by darkness, her escape pod somehow embedded in a chunk of the ship's twisted remains. "Athena," she called out weakly, her voice hoarse. To her surprise, Athena's voice replied, faint but present. "Captain, I am still operational. Barely." Carter's heart raced. How is that possible? The self-destruct. "The ship's core shielded fragments of my system," Athena explained. "We are adrift, but the alien vessels are gone. For now." Carter forced herself to sit up, her hand brushing against a console sparking faintly with residual power. "What about the crew?" "They are safe," Athena replied. "But Captain, the alien vessels were not fully destroyed. They are reforming again." Carter's stomach sank. "How long do we have?" "Minutes," Athena said. "But I have identified an alternative." As Carter listened, Athena outlined a desperate plan. The explosion had not eradicated the alien ships. It had only disrupted them temporarily. But the energy surge had left behind a rift in space, a tear in the fabric of reality that pulsed with the same ancient energy signature. "The rift leads to somewhere," Athena explained. "Perhaps the source of their power, or their creators." Carter frowned. "And you think we can use it?" "Not to escape," Athena replied. "To finish this. If we send a final surge into the rift, it may destabilize their entire network and sever their regenerative ability permanently." Carter exhaled, the enormity of the plan settling over her. It was a one-way mission, and the odds were slim. But if she didn't act, the alien vessels would recover, stronger than ever. "Then let's do it," she said. Using the fragments of the Horizon systems, Carter and Athena prepared the core for one final activation. The energy required to collapse the rift was immense, more than the remaining power of the ship, but Athena had a solution. "Captain," Athena said softly, "to amplify the surge, I will need to merge with the rift." Carter froze. "Merge? You mean you won't survive?" "No," Athena replied, her tone steady. "But neither will they." Carter's chest tightened. Athena had been more than an ally. She had been a friend, a guide, and a lifeline. But there was no time for hesitation. "Do it," Carter said, her voice breaking. As the alien vessels began to stir, Carter maneuvered the wreckage of the horizon toward the rift. The glowing tear in space loomed ahead, its edges crackling with raw energy. The alien ships, sensing the movement, turned their attention to her. "They're coming," Athena warned. Carter gripped the controls, her focus razor-sharp. "Then let's give them something to chase." The wreckage accelerated, drawing the alien vessels closer. Tendrils of energy lashed out from the ships, trying to ensnare her, but Carter dodged with the precision of a seasoned pilot. The rift pulsed brighter as she approached, its pull growing stronger. "Now, Athena," Carter shouted. Athena's systems interfaced with the rift, her presence flooding the controls. The ship vibrated violently as the energy surge built, the core glowing white-hot. "Goodbye, Captain," Athena said, her voice faint but resolute. Carter swallowed hard. "Goodbye, Athena." The surge erupted, a wave of pure energy cascading into the rift. The alien vessels froze mid-attack, their glowing veins dimming as the rift collapsed, consuming them in a final blinding flash. And then, silence. Days later, aboard the Sol Invictus, the surviving crew of the Horizon gathered in the observation deck. The void outside was calm, the remnants of the battle erased. Monroe stared out at the stars, her expression distant. "She did it," Paddle said quietly. "She saved us, again." Monroe nodded. "But at what cost?" Admiral Stone entered the room, his presence commanding. "We've confirmed the rift is gone, and there's no sign of the alien vessels. Commander Carter's actions ensured our survival. But the galaxy knows now," Monroe said, turning to face him. "They know what humanity is capable of. What happens when others come looking for the weapon?" Stone's jaw tightened. "Then we'll be ready." Far away, in a distant part of the galaxy, a faint signal echoed through the void. It was ancient, fragmented, but unmistakable. A warning, one that resonated with countless civilizations. Terra awakens. And somewhere, Carter's sacrifice had left an indelible mark, not just on her crew, but on the stars themselves. Humanity's future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Earth was no longer just a world. It was a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy would never be the same.